quality management system is not a binder on a shelf. It's a living network of interconnected processes, each one feeding the next, each one measured, each one improved. Clause 4.4 is where you design that network. This is the engine room of ISO 9001. Welcome back to ISO Decoded. I'm Ahmed Ibrahim and this is episode 5. Over the past 3 weeks, we have built the intelligence layer of your QMS. We understood your context in clause 4.1, identified our interested parties in 4.2, and drew our scope boundaries in 4.3. Today, we arrive at the clause that brings it to life. Clause 4.4 Quality Management System and its processes. If the previous clauses were about knowing who you are, clause 4.4 is about deciding how you work. This is where you identify, define, and manage the actual processes that make your QMS function. Think of it as the blueprint of your operational engine. And here's why this clause matters so much. ISO 9001 is fundamentally a process based standard. The process approach is one of the 7 quality management principles. Without well defined processes, your QMS is just a collection of documents with no real impact. Let's break down what Clause 4.4 actually requires. It is one of the most detailed clauses in the standard, so stay with me. Clause 4.4.1 states the organization shall establish, implement, maintain, and continually improve a quality management system, including the processes needed and their interactions. Then it gives you a comprehensive checklist. For each process, you shall determine the inputs required and the outputs expected, what goes in and what comes out. The sequence and interaction of these processes, how do they connect to each other? The criteria and methods needed to ensure effective operation and control. What are your performance indicators? The resources needed, people, infrastructure, environment, and knowledge. The responsibilities and authorities, who owns each process. The risks and opportunities are determined in clause 6.1. What could go wrong and what could go right? And finally, how to evaluate these processes and implement any changes needed to ensure they achieve their intended results. Clause 4.4.2 adds, to the extent necessary, the organization shall maintain documented information to support the operation of its processes, and retain documented information to have confidence that the processes are being carried out as planned. Notice the language, to the extent necessary. The standard doesn't demand a procedure for every process. It gives you the flexibility to determine what documentation is appropriate for your organization. So, how do you actually identify and map your processes? Let me give you a practical framework. Most organizations group their processes into 3 categories. First, management processes. These are the strategic and governance processes: management review, strategic planning, internal audit, and the quality planning. They steer the ship. Second, core processes. These are your value creation processes. the ones that directly deliver your product or service. For a manufacturer, this might include order processing, production, quality control, and delivery. For a service company, it could be a client onboarding, service delivery, and project management. Third, support processes. These enable the core processes to function: human resources, IT, facilities management, procurement, calibration, document control. The most common tool for visualizing these is a process interaction map, sometimes called a turtle diagram or a process landscape. The ISO guidance document on the process approach recommends identifying your processes, then defining their sequence and interaction, and then determining the criteria for monitoring and measurement. Here is a practical example. Imagine a food manufacturing company. Their core process might be raw material receiving, followed by ingredient storage, followed by batch mixing, cooking, packaging, quality testing, warehousing, and distribution. Each process has defined inputs, outputs, controls, and resources. The output of one process becomes the input of the next. The beauty of the process approach is that it forces you to think horizontally across your organization rather than vertically through departmental silos. Quality is not one department's job. It's the result of every process working together. Two elements of Clause 4.4 deserve special attention: process ownership and performance measurement. The standard requires you to assign responsibilities and authorities for each process. In practice, this means designating a process owner, someone accountable for the performance and improvement of that process. The process owner doesn't need to do all the work, but they need to ensure the process achieves the intended result. This is a cultural shift for many organizations. Traditional structures assign authority by department. The process approach assigns accountability by process flow. A single process may cross multiple departments, and the process owner is the person who sees the whole picture. Then there are performance indicators, the criteria and methods for monitoring. Every process should have at least one measurable indicator that tells you whether it is performing effectively. For a production process, that might be defect rate or first pass yield. For a delivery process, on time delivery percentage. For customer service, response time or resolution rate. The auditing practices group recommends asking, how do you know this process is working? If the process owner cannot answer that question with data, there is a gap. Remember, these processes, KPIs, feed directly into Clause 9.1: monitoring, measurement, analysis, and evaluation. What you define here is what you will measure later. Audit time. What will auditors look in for Clause 4.4? First, they want to see that you have identified your processes, not just listed them, but genuinely thought about what processes exist and how they interact. Second, they will test the intersections. If you say process A feeds into process B, an auditor will follow that trail and verify the connection is real. Third, they will ask process owners about performance. How do you know this process is effective? Is a favorite audit question. If the answer is vague, expect a finding. Common gaps include processes that exist on paper but are not followed in practice, missing interactions between departments, performance criteria that are underdefined or never reviewed, and documentation that is either excessive or insufficient. The golden rule: your process map should reflect reality, not aspiration. Auditors do not want to see the theoretical diagram. They want to see how your organization actually works. To wrap up, Clause 4.4 is the heartbeat of your QMS. It requires you to identify your processes, define inputs and outputs, establish their sequence and interactions, assign ownership, set performance criteria, and ensure appropriate documentation. With this episode, we have completed the entire Clause 4 context of the organization. You now understand your environment, your stakeholders, your scope, and your processes. That is a solid foundation. Next week in episode 6, we step into Clause 5, Leadership. Specifically, Clause 5.1, Leadership and Commitment. This is where the standard puts the spotlight squarely on top management. No more delegating quality to a single department. ISO 9001-2015 demands that leaders own quality personally. Subscribe, share, and leave a review. You are building a real ISO 9001 expertise, one episode at a time. Until next week,